Kazimba Mugalu. Let's return to studio and tackle our postscript, East African efforts to extend its territory. And of course, joining us is Nation media reporter Jingo Francis to help us understand exactly what is happening. But before he tells us more about the machinations in Arusha, allow me ask, as a journalist, you've just heard the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Dr. Stephen Kazimba Mugalu, speaking there, delivering what is no doubt a no-holds-barred statement on homosexuality and developments in England in as far as that vote is concerned. What's your take?
Thank you for hosting me this morning. And I think the church is right to come out openly and put their position against the homosexuals. This is not the first time that the Church of Uganda does it. The Catholic Church, the government of Uganda, they have come out clearly to say that to hell with homosexuality and all those bad behaviors. And I think, of course, we cannot say that the vice is not among us. The vice is among us. It's not new. It has been there, but we cannot accept to allow it penetrate, especially among our young people.
Okay, yeah. Priscilla, Jingo Francis seems to voice a concern that you clearly brought out as we were listening to the Archbishop speaking there. The fact that the vice of homosexuality has been existent in African society for centuries. However, it has not been accepted. And you say that there is a misrepresentation, perhaps. We are blaming the West as if it is not with us. Is that something you still hold?
We seem to put ourselves in a position of holier than thou art, as if to say that for them it's done and dusted and it's a terrible thing and it's happening to them, but it's not happening to us. Yet that blindness of the eye is exactly why this vice is going to continue mushrooming, and perhaps one day, by fear, it could become a normal thing in our societies if we don't first of all acknowledge, especially to our younger generation, that it's here. It's existent, and therefore we must equip them to understand that it is not the direction that they should be going or following thereof, as some of those customs and cultural things that we pick up here and then because of our African heritage that is so blessed with wealth in terms of norms and customs, and there's many nitty-gritty things that we put ourselves into. Our best example would be our very own Buganda culture, upon which Kabaka Mwanga would have this nature of conduct, within the palace, and some say it was a form of punishment to those that had wronged the king, and then others it was one way of dispensing his sexuality without necessarily creating so much havoc and being, there were no family planning here and there. So if you look back in other more ancient times, because of the migration of communities here and there, some adopted it as a way of managing the numbers that would be migrating. So because man to man you won't be getting pregnant or things like that. So that's when we get to understand where it actually stems from. Those are the roots that we must cut off as Uganda, so that it does not find a ground to grow for us. All
right, finding the roots, and of course ensuring that everything is dealt with from the core of its inception. I hope the money factor can be attended to. The more poor the people get, the more vulnerable they become. But
you see, the Bible says the poor will always be amongst us. So we will never have a place where
let's leave that conversation and return to aspects, of course, that we have laid out for today's discussion. East African efforts to extend its territory. Let me just bring you up to speed with our preamble. The East African community conducted a verification mission to assess the Federal Republic of Somalia's readiness to join the community. The verification team of experts from the East African partner states were in Somalia on the 25th of January to the 3rd of February this year to establish the country's levels of conformity with the criteria for admitting foreign countries as provided in the Treaty of Establishment of the East African Community. The technical team in Mogadishu will now engage Somalia to ensure that the verification is finalized and a report completed in time in readiness rather for presentation to the East African Council of Ministers that will table it for consideration on the 23rd Summit of East African Heads of State scheduled for the end of February. Jingo Francis is here. He has covered Arusha extensively for Nation Media Group, and he's at the heart of the problems of the community and its efforts to expand. What is happening?
Of course, so we were in Somalia. I went to Somalia with a team, the verification team, which was headed by the Council of the Community, Dr. Kafumbe, and Madame Rose Tiri from Burundi. The team was comprised of experts from all the partner states, all the current 7 partner states, including DRC. And they looked at a number of issues on how, whether Somalia is ready to join the East African community. Of course, on our arrival in Somalia, of course, the picture that we have when we are this side, what we know is about war and Al-Shabaab,
bomb blasts,
and guns. You know, so Somalia. Yes, the situation is not yet safe, I would say. It's not yet safe in Somalia, thanks to our UPDF forces that are there that have tried their best to stabilize Somalia. When you go to Mogadishu, you purely see the presence of UPDF everywhere from the airport. We were welcomed by the UPDF officers, and even the guys who work at the airport, some of them are
soldiers of the UPDF.
Soldiers of the UPDF. So you really see the presence of the UPDF everywhere, guarding everywhere on the roads, at the hotels, and everywhere. But the situation is not as, when you hear the situation when you are out of Somalia,
it's totally different from what is on the ground.
It's now different from what it used to be. When you ask the people who have been there for some time, they will tell you that it was worse than what it is now.
Is that what forms the crust of Somalia's quest to join the community, that it now feels that it has what it takes, especially when it comes to the various requirements that are laid down?
Somalia applied to join the East African community in 2012. They have been demanding to join the community. And I think part of the reason as why they are asking to join the community is to solve the very problem they are going through. They believe that through the East African community, the insecurity that has been ongoing for over 20 years and more can be solved by these partner states.
Jingo, if you speak of 2012, then why has it not mushroomed? We're talking about a stretch of 10 years. You do have them being more so in the same category with DRC. DRC got their approval and are in the bloc now. So between 2012 and to date, what are some of those hiccups that Somalia has experienced that they have not yet been fully accepted into the bloc?
One of the reasons why the heads of state decided and tasked the Council of Ministers to form this team to go to Somalia is to find out exactly that, whether Somalia is ready to join the community. And when you look at what is on ground, you really see that there is something that is going on. There is a government on ground. The good thing I saw in Somalia is that this is a government of very young people. Very, very young people. When you look at this Chief Justice of Somalia, you really can't believe that he's a Chief Justice. Even the ministers, the permanent secretaries, some of the ministries that we visited, like a Ministry of Justice. We went to Mogadishu port, and you would see the guys who are managing the port. By the way, the port of Mogadishu is very big, and business is just booming. Business is booming, by the way, and we were told that it's the gateway to the Asian countries. That port. also
the gateway for the Horn of Africa?
Yes.
Okay.
Because what happens is that the goods that are coming from Asia entering Africa, most of it goes through Mogadishu port and also the airport. Okay. And the airport is very busy. When you are in that place, the airport and Mogadishu, you can't believe that.
Busy.
you can't.
Okay.
Even our NTV is busy.
Even our NTV is busy.
Yes.
With officials taking,
okay,
you know.
let's look at the benefiting factor.
Yeah.
What does Somalia have to benefit from the EAC bloc, and what does the EAC bloc have to benefit from Somalia?
Currently, we are told that Somalia has about 15 million people, the market. When you add it to about 300 that plus Congo, it comes to around 315 or 320 million people. But the big number of Somalis that fled that country are in these member states, including Uganda, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and other countries, and even in Europe. Many of them are being encouraged to return because there is some level of stability in Somalia because of UPDF, what UPDF has done. And according to the government in Somalia, they believe that very soon, Al-Shabaab will be flushed out. The biggest problem that Somalia government is facing is the agreements that these countries, the peace keeping forces. Uganda, UPDF is like a peacekeeping force in Somalia. So the agreements that are signed to go and keep peace in Somalia do not allow them to engage the enemy, and that is the Al-Shabaab directly. They cannot pursue the enemy directly. So until the enemy attacks them, that is when they respond. So, and that is the biggest problem. Otherwise, if the UPDF was pursuing Al-Shabaab, then they would have.
You seem to be suggesting
they have been there for 15 years.
Yeah, you seem to be suggesting that within the East African Community Dispensation, Somalia would have to receive the advantages of an army or a force that can act without necessarily waiting to respond.
Yes. Okay. And they are trying to build UPDF and other countries like Kenya and Burundi that are there. They're trying to build a national army in Somalia.
We've already seen an army formed in the Democratic Republic of Congo to help restore order in that particular region. It doesn't have the mandate to attack or act proactively. What is going to change if Somalia is brought on board? Does that army's mandate have to be again debated?
Also, just to top up on that, you're having South Sudan and DRC right now, so that means the other members have dispensed military aid to these countries so far. That means that the unison military base that we have is being stretched thin. With the addition of Somalia, are we not going to be walking on a thread?
Definitely there is you would say that there is a threat. More countries are joining to help out Somalia. The other day, the presidents were in Burundi, and they were saying South Sudan is also ready to add troops to help Somalia, and also DRC. So most of these countries are now working together to ensure that the insecurity problem is solved in the region.
The East African community, nation states, are grappling with internal economic policy contradictions. When the pursuit of a community like the East African community, which some elements want to morph into a federation that is political later, some other countries are fearful. When you see how reserved Tanzania can be many times on aspects concerning expansionist policy, like we are seeing right now in the case of Somalia seeking, we see Somalia seeking, but we know and believe that Somalia is being told to come on board. You know, when that happens, doesn't it more like thin out the resources we could use to, first of all, organize our own houses before we can think of making other houses, especially within the larger community, better?
Yeah, you're right. There is that thinking that you first sort out yourself before you come to the general house.
Of our 7 children, we have 2. 1 is malnourished, 2 is grappling with leprosy and polio. But we desperately want to throw funds at the neighbor's house where somebody has said, I'm hungry.
But you can't leave. You can't, if somebody is completely
your neighbor
hungry,
can't die.
You can't let your neighbor die, and you wait.
You understand the analogy I'm trying to bring on board. Yeah.
Yes. So that is exactly that's what they are trying to do. And of course, Al-Shabaab has affected us. Uganda, and that's why UPDF is there. I'm not a spokesperson for UPDF.
Oh, of course.
But having been been affected by Al-Shabaab
terrorism
as a country, you remember the several attacks that have happened here and attributed to Al-Shabaab, and I think that's the reason as why Uganda and the government of Uganda decided that they should send our troops in Somalia. Okay. And I can tell you they are doing a good job. I didn't have an opportunity to move a lot, but what I saw, the little I saw, would clearly tell that UPDF is
My final question is, there's a limitation of the central faith of the country, being a Muslim-based country. I know that they're strong on the Sharia law, and they have made statements regarding they're coming into the East African bloc, that they can come, but there's certain elements, policies, treaties they won't get in bed with because of that law. That law will take precedence. Where do we leave? Where does that leave them in being, respondent to the community?
Actually, the Sharia law is like their constitution. It's the principal law in Somalia, and therefore anything that goes against the principles of Sharia are null and void. And according to them is that yes, they accept other religions, but as long as the laws and regulations that are governing the community are enforced on them, they will not abide by them. And that is what they say, that Sharia law is a principal law, and therefore anything that goes against it will not work. Okay. But of course, that does not stop them from joining the community.
Of course,
they can be governed under the Sharia law. And they still be part of the community.
Yeah, you're right, because
99% of them are
joining the community is entirely based on diplomacy and foreign relations, and we know there are rules that govern how countries interact, or even when they come together in a single bloc. The Pope was in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He said something that was very poignant: hands off DRC. In a way, he's saying hands off Somalia, hands off Sudan, and here we are. What message does that send to the community, especially when it comes to strategic geopolitical issues, when the Pope comes and speaks like that?
I think the visit of the Pope to DRC and South Sudan has a lot of message, because for a long time these countries have faced a lot of insurgency, and when the Pope visits and speaks to the leaders in those areas, if they have ears, they should hear. If they have eyes, they should see that the Pope is looked at as a man of peace. Wherever he goes, he preaches peace.
That's right.
And therefore, the leaders in South Sudan and DRC, this time around, I think the visit of the Pope would have to change a lot of things. And I think his visit will culminate into those very leaders in these countries to visit Rome as well.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much, Jingo Francis, a reporter with NTV, and of course the Greater Nation Media Group, extensively covering Arusha and issues concerning the East African community. We do, of course, now feel very emboldened that we know much more about what Somalia brings on board and exactly how it can also benefit from the community that Uganda is already a member. We shall take a break. Discussions are continuing, and how the music industry benefits from Kenza's Grammy nomination. That has caused a little bit of furor, especially with some artists saying the man is selfish. Is he? We shall find out.